Hey guys, welcome back to another Zodiac Sunday. I'm Kent.
And I'm that nerd Allison.
And welcome to our
Spicy Book Nook.
So the last episode that we did was As Told by As Told by the Boys, Part 1.
I thought you said asshole, and I was like, whoa, what are we talking about?
Yeah, my words are like, nah, not today. But, so we left off with Part 1. And we were talking about how they were being mean to Darcy because she was holding on to Darius. And then they did their Power of Four game. And they pretty much just made her a walking mud pie.
A swamp monster?
Yeah.
Right before her liaison meeting.
Exactly. And we know from The Awakening that a bunch of people were taking pictures of her and she was absolutely mortified.
Yeah.
But that's where we left off. And now we're moving into the Orion chapter where she has her first liaison meeting with him.
Yes.
This is kind of a big chapter for Lance for me.
Okay.
Because this is when he's doing her power rankings and seeing her hand and kind of like talking about how she's this great person, but you never know that the devil is lurking deep inside. Like, he's just so pessimistic about it while looking at her hand and her fates and seeing like how good she is. So that was like a big part of this chapter for me.
I want to go over Orion was showering after pitball practice. And then he gets a text from Gabriel.
Oh yeah.
And it's so cute. So Gabe says, "Your new path is gilded in sunlight and surrounded by shadow. Don't step off of it." Lance goes, "In plainer terms, the darkness is your closest friend, but it's time to let it go." He's like, asks if it is the lion, Leon.
Yeah.
He's like, "It's not funny." And he's like, "No, it's me, Oreo." He's like, "You need to listen to what I'm telling you and not telling you. The answer lays in between my words." And he's like, "Can't you lay it out for me straight just this once?" And he goes, "Call me later." And he's like, "Will do." In sunlight, and there's shadow around it. And he keeps saying that Darcy is like sunlight.
I have that like highlighted in the later chapters
So
about
cute.
how like she just is every single time he thinks about or like looks at her, it's always sunlight. She brings light to my world. And like
Right there. Gabe is like, "Just stay in the light, Lance, and don't stray into the shadow."
Also, you lied to me.
What?
Gabe is in this book.
Well, not like in person. Nobody.
Yes, he is. He flies to bring lunch to him. Do you forget about it?
Yeah, I don't remember that at all.
I saw that and I like freaked out. I was like, she lied to me. And my kids look at me and they go, "Who lied to
What?
you?"
Your Aunt Allison lied to me.
I was like so giddy inside. We'll get there though. So in this chapter, yes, he is like talking about Sunshine and he refers to her as Sunshine all the time. So she comes in and
Looks like a mud monster.
he's kind of picking on her. He's like, "I hope that's not your fashion choice. Not a fashion choice." She says, "Oh yeah, I just love rolling in the mud in the evenings." And he says this quote, he's like, "The air seemed to charge with an energy so fierce that I felt it right down to my soul. And I fought the urge to look back at her to try and figure out if she felt it too." Like, every time he talks about her, he talks about his soul. And, like, the stars and everything is pushing them together. And he's just like,
"I don't know
"She's the devil.
what this could possibly be.
There's a monster lurking deep in there."
Maybe they're sirens or something because, like, they have to be evil."
My God. Oh, my God. We're going to talk about that in a minute because they're dumb.
They're the two dumbest people.
They're so dumb.
When it comes to, like, things of their heart, they're just, like, the most oblivious pair of individuals.
Anyway, again, later in the chapter, they're going through their stuff. He does her power rankings. I think she's done that already. Oh, no, he goes to bite her. Because this is after he's claimed her as a source, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Don't bite me."
And she's, like, requesting him not to bite her. And he, like, acts like he's not going to, and then he does. But before that, he says, "This close, I could smell her, and the scent was an intoxicating combination of strawberries and purest sunshine." Anyway.
There's another section where, right before that, right before he actually bites her, he's looking at her and he says, I found my gaze wandering over her face, unable to ignore the beauty of her petite features or the way those eyes seemed to swallow my entire soul. Siren. Definitely a siren. That's the only explanation to be attracted to her.
He's trying so hard to convince himself that she's a siren and messing with his emotions. But anyway, he's like, you don't want me to bite you? And then bites her. And as he starts to drink her blood hit my tongue, and I lost all sense of everything as pristine light seemed to roll over my taste buds.
This is right after Gabe was like, sunshine, Lance. Stay in the light. And he's like, I don't understand what you mean. What could you possibly mean?
Sunshine? Huh? I'm confused.
5 minutes later, everything he thinks about
blood
is
tastes like light on my tongue.
So dumb. Lance. Oh, man.
Her heartbeat filled my head, and I drank another mouthful of the sweetest, most appetizing blood I'd ever drunk. Her power flowed into me in furious waves that spoke of the depths to which her magic ran. He tries to blame it on her magic this whole time. He's like, her magic, because I'm a vampire, it's just drawing me to her. Later, it will talk a little bit about him, like, claiming her and not just as a source. So I'm really excited about that. But, so the biggest thing about this chapter is he does her power readings. And he says, don't move and don't giggle for the love of the sun. I hate the gigglers. We've kind of already seen that from him in class where he like goes after people and does mean things to people that giggle. But after that, he says, I took her hand and brushed my fingertips over her palm, energy seeming to crackle from her skin into mine. Why would you be crackling? Why would there be energy between your skin touching?
They're so dumb.
And then he explains what he's reading on her palm. And he gave her readings. I found she was also gifted with a line called the Ring of Solomon, which curved beneath her index finger. I frowned as I examined the rare line, the marking indicating a fae who was self-sacrificing and good at heart. I know the monster lies down deep. Then he goes over another marking. The marking spoke of a significant love in her life that would be wrought with hardship and emotional turmoil. It was split in places, which indicated the worst of those hardships. And the end of it was muddled with so many intersecting lines that it was hard to tell whether the love continued beyond them or if the relationship ended abruptly within those trials. Wonder whose future he's actually reading.
What does the last line say? Hold on.
After that?
So many intersecting lines that it was hard to tell whether the love continued beyond them
or if the relationship ended abruptly within those trials. Whose future do you think he's actually reading right now? Couldn't be his own.
Hardship and emotional turmoil. Man, does that come back into play.
Anyway, after that, he says, I found myself feeling oddly possessive of her as I considered this coming relationship. She was mine. I mean, her blood was mine. And I wasn't going to allow some asshole to show up and claim her for himself. This girl was not to be taken from me.
But she's the devil. She's a siren and she's just luring him in.
There's a monster lurking deep.
So
like,
dumb.
Every time.
Did you go over the other line, the Ring of Solomon line?
Yeah, I said that.
Yeah.
And then he goes
so
again.
Dumb.
And a siren. Definitely a fucking siren. She was the enemy. Gives her power rankings. We know what she's got. 10 is the strongest you can be. So she's got a 10 in air. This is Darcy.
Yep.
And then her weakest element is fire. And then he kind of goes into a little bit of her family here. We know about that from the first part.
Yep.
She was so star-damned alluring. Okay, my dude, stop. Like, maybe it's definitely because we read Ruthless Boys. Because we understand what these things mean. But if you hadn't read Ruthless Boys, you wouldn't, like, truly understand it. And
you
Lance
could have, like, a inkling, but...
Yeah, Lance has obviously never had this connection before. But he's best friends with Gabriel.
Yeah. He has met both Leon and Elise.
He talks about Elise in
and
here.
Dante. He's met all of them.
He talks about her.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's so many, like, little snippets from Ruthless Boys where they talk about other people. Or just, like, for instance, in one of the books,
all of
it's
the
like
snake pictures that Gabe keeps sending him make my heart
so happy. There's so many things of, like, they talk about a cake, and there's 3 Griffin brothers in attendance, and people are like, "Oh, I'm not having the cake." But it's just such like a passed away comment that like if you hadn't read Ruthless Boys, you wouldn't get it. But like reading Ruthless Boys, you're like, "Oh, don't have the cake." It's just so funny.
And then another thing that I noticed, when he calls her Blue, he says, "Do you have any idea of the dangerous times we're living in, Blue?" I demanded, and my upper lip curled as I stared at her hair. The royal color already branded on her like a flag hung there to mock me.
Mm-hmm.
She has no idea that that's what blue is.
We haven't gotten to that quote yet. It's like one of the main quotes from the series. Everybody talks about it. And Lance says it to Darcy. I think in end of book 2 or early book 3.
Okay.
Is when that quote comes.
But she doesn't know that that's a royal color. She did it for other reasons that we know about because we talked about it from the first book. But like, and another thing here is he's talking about her family and she's like, "Just tell me."
Mm-hmm.
And he's, again, she had no right to know any of this. My theories, suspicions, they were for me and Darius, not this girl's. I don't need her running off to gossip with her little friends.
Yeah.
And then this is also where he goes into nymphs.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like essentially the whole time being like, I can't tell her. I can't tell her. I can't share anything with her.
She's the enemy.
Mm-hmm. And then he meets up with Darius to kind of talk about her power rankings. And Lance runs into Professor Astrom.
Mm-hmm.
And we know now that he is Falling Star and that he was trying to help the girls and who he was.
Yep.
And now we know why he doesn't like Lance. So something that he says to him that I was kind of like, interesting. That put a couple theories in my head. I kind of already talked about a little bit of Lance's dad in the very first video we did in Origins of an Academy Bully.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about him a little bit. This made me even more like, So Astrom says to him, he sneered at me, hatred clear in his gaze. Your father would be ashamed of what you've become. What we know of right now is Lance's parents have always been dark magic people that help the Acrixes.
Yep.
This right here told me, because we know who Astrom is, Lance's dad was not like that. He was most likely helping the king and queen of Solaria. Because Astrom was a, I forgot the word, my goodness. He was someone that was helping the queen.
Astrom?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
An advisor or something like that. And he's a very, very powerful seer. So for him to say that to Lance, 100% I was like, he was helping the king and queen.
It goes a little bit into the king's backstory, specifically with the counselors. They're all the same age. And the counselors, their families always have been the counselors. And so like they all went to school together. And so you see that part later in books. And Lance's dad is in those stories.
Yeah. So I think,
and you get to see a little bit of background.
I also don't think that he died from what they said he died from. I think he died for a different reason. So we'll find out about that too.
Mm-hmm. Eventually. It's not for a while.
But my thoughts and theories when I saw that line.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, fucking royalist. I didn't even know what he meant about my father. If he'd been here, he'd hardly have been a fucking Vega supporter. He'd work for the damn Acrixes. So I had to assume Astrom was losing his mind. Astrom. Like, that right there, I was like, ding, 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 I'm correct. I am right.
Lance, you just do not know.
And then he says at the end, and maybe the day Lionel fell at his son's hand, I'd finally find some peace. So we go a lot into how Lance is struggling pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
He's like not all there. He's talked about suicide before. He's talked about the fact that just dying would be better for him.
He's just super depressed,
Darius
always
is
drinking.
really the only thing that keeps him going and fighting the nymphs.
Mm-hmm.
So now we move into a Darius chapter.
Yep.
And this is, I love seeing how he feels about Tori here because it was a huge standoff in book 1. when she came downstairs after the naked photos of her were swirling around, and she comes down and pretty much
beats the shit
fucks
out of
Milton up.
Yeah.
Rightfully deserved. 100% should have done it. And Darius even says that in here, which I'm like, yeah, my dude.
Yeah.
He deserved
Get
that.
him.
And he sees like how smart Darcy is and how strong she already is with 3 elements, because she attacks Milton with all 3. So seeing like his perspective and the fact that he was like, I want to fight her. Like, let me at him. And Darcy's like, I'm good. Have fun jerking off to the pictures you have in your phone of me naked. And it's very funny that he runs upstairs and deletes all the pictures because he doesn't.
He's like,
my ego.
I'm going to prove to her that I don't need them. Why would I want them?
So everybody's kind of laughing because Darcy gets the last word in. And he gets pissed off. He says, clean this shit up. And then he goes, I wouldn't be jerking off over some shitty photographs of a girl who drove me insane, and I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of believing I was either. Way to get him, Darcy. Or Tori. Did I say Darcy the whole time?
No. You just said it right there.
I mix up my kids' names too. So this is nothing weird for me. Anyways, we move back into an Orion chapter. He is picking on kids that needed detention and that are like walking around not really wearing their uniform. And
he's just the type of teacher that likes and like enjoys fucking with the students and just being an asshole. So he's just like spending his free time just harassing them.
Anyway, so he sees Darcy, Tori, and Geraldine walking by, and I have to point this out. He's the most bothersome bombalombadook I ever saw, talking about Professor Washer. And we're going through, and Darcy is about to fall. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Darcy is about to fall. I think. Before this, she also says, an almond sprout is a dilly dongle, a war willy wingle, a goblin of the Groose, a terrible Leroy.
Terrible Leroy.
I am going to make a book of these, and I'm going to hand it out to people when we go to the
just
convention.
Vocabulary.
And then Tori goes, a dick?
Why, yes.
Oh, wait, that monster eats people with their dicks? Anyway, so Darcy's about to fall because someone, like, I think pushes her over.
She trips over her own feet. It says Darcy suddenly tripped over her own feet. We already know that Darcy is the clumsiest person in the world. It's right after, that's what I've been trying to tell you.
Before that, my ears hummed with energy, and it felt like the stars were peeling back a layer of the world for me. I lived in that sensation for a moment, feeling closer to Clara, like she was standing at the edges of my consciousness. The scales are tipping, Libra. You must soon choose. A howl cut through the whispers in my mind, and my eyes snapped open, leaving me unsure if I'd really heard those words. The stars spoke so rarely with people. I'd only ever experienced it a couple of times in my life, the first time being when my father had died, and the words, claim his place, had echoed in my head. Since then, it seemed like they were always more present, like they were always watching me, and it made every one of my choices seem far more important than I liked them to be. Of course they want him to claim his place, because he's freaking mated to one of the Vega twins. His dad was helping the Vegas.
The stars are like, go help them. What are you doing?
And he's like, he is doing that because Darius is another Vega twins mate. So, like, he's doing it by proxy right now. Go help the girls. Stop fighting them. And I'm really hoping that that's what we start to get because of the way that book 1 ended when Lance helped them. I'm really hoping that we start to see him be the baby that we need him to be.
I will say we will see some turmoil between Lance and Darius because of the twins.
As it should be.
We will see them not necessarily
when they finally accept that they're not
necessarily
siblings.
Picking sides, but heavily telling them to get their shit together.
But that right there was another, like, ding, ding, ding. Dad worked for the Vegas. Claim his place. Also, the stars are talking to him about making a choice. I wonder what fucking choice he's going to have to make. Couldn't be between his bond, his guardian bond, and his freaking
Mate.
soulmate. Couldn't be.
Couldn't be. Why would it?
Anyway, he attacks. He's like he's planning a sneak attack on Darius to take him out to go hunting.
Yeah.
For nymphs, and he pounces on him, gets him away, stardusts them away, and they get there, and this is kind of like a sordid scene. I was like, this is like
sort of what?
funny, but not funny at the same time because Darius like freaked out. You could see the fear and like he was like ready to actually attack Lance. And that bond right there between them was like super crucial right there to calm Darius down. Anyway, they're talking, and he's talking about orders of the girls. And Orion says, I think Darcy might be a siren. And then Darius says, oh yeah? Why do you think that? It's just a vibe. Like she's trying to manipulate my feelings or something. Yeah, now you say it. Roxy could be one too. Really? You felt it from her as well? I asked hopefully, latching onto this explanation with both hands. Yeah, like a sort of pull. Exactly.
I agreed, and relief fell between us. They're both just happy that they're both delusional. Just grasping at straws that it could be anything else other than, oh no, we're mated to these people that are our sworn enemies.
Anyway, so as they're fighting the nymphs, they talk about how they saw a group of people that had a limp. And they saw a picture from one of the guys that lived up there that's kind of cuckoo, that there was a nymph with a thing through its leg that had a limp. And so their theory is, I also had no idea that nymphs could do this at this point. This is like a eye-opener for me, that they could turn into people. That they had fae forms.
Blink, blink, blink. That little real moment where it's like talking about something and everybody goes blink, blink, blink.
Anyway, so they think that there is a nest up here. They think that is where the one with the limp is hiding. I think they see one. Yeah, okay. So they hear a scream from the house of the old man that took the picture. And a nymph comes running out. The house is up in flames. And the nymph actually ends up getting away. I can't remember how, but he ends up getting away after killing the other guy. And Fib shows up. And Darius gets caught because Lance ran away. Because it would be really bad if they both got caught together. And Lance calls
Francesca.
Darius's dad. No, he calls Lionel.
Well, he gets a message from Francesca saying to run.
Well, that the Fib was
a little,
coming.
yeah, a little warning.
But it was too late. They had already gotten caught at that point. So he calls Lionel and to get them out of that, because if they were to be brought down to the station and their memories were to be searched,
and they were found out, they're going
horrible.
hunting
the dark
for nymphs.
magic, the nymph hunting, like all of that stuff. So Francesca, I don't know if we've talked about her yet. She is a Fib employee that is an informant for Orion. She tells him like where the nymph stuff's coming in. They are more than besties.
They have not actually been in like a relationship at all. She wants to be. They are allies.
Yes, they're also the Nebula allies.
Yeah.
And he says that later on in the book, but they
went to school together.
Every now and then.
Every now and then they get their urges out.
Apparently, we'll talk about it in a minute. But anyway, so he calls Lionel, and Lionel comes down and essentially gets Darius out of it. But now they have to go see him. And something that Lionel has been like telling Darius is, you need to get those girls gone. And he is pissed that he hasn't done it yet. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, when Darius gets let go by the FBI agents, an agent goes, then why are you wearing clothes? Because he said that he had shifted into his dragon form. He goes, you ever heard of a pego bag, dipshit? The pego bags from Ruthless Boys. From what's his fucking name that died?
Oh, her brother?
Yeah. What's his name? Garrett.
Yeah.
The pego bags from Garrett. Sad.
Yep.
Lives on in infamy.
Anyway, so after that happened, when they were like, you need to come see me, that ends. They end up in Darius's bed. Because, you know.
They need a little bit of
bonding,
a little bit of assurance.
Oh no, he didn't
from
end up in his bed that night
other?
because they were mad at each other. Because Orion said no more. He said, we're not going to chance this anymore. We're not hunting anymore. And Darius was pissed. He said, fuck you. It's not the bond. Because Darius was essentially saying, this is your guardian bond speaking, not you, because he wanted to protect Darius.
Mm-hmm.
And Orion was pissed. So they got in a really big fight. And Lance left him.
Mm-hmm.
They separated. The next chapter, we move into Darius chapter. So, yeah, this is the chapter where the boys go into the woods and sit on the stumps when Tori just kind of ran away.
Darius says that Lance is ignoring him.
Yep.
So that's probably why he's going to go talk to him.
And then this is where they're also picking on Darius's wife-to-be. Mm-hmm. And Tori is just kind of sitting in the back listening to all this. And we know this. Darius does not know this. So this is when he goes and talks to...
Goes to talk to Orion?
Lance, yeah. And then before that, this is also where he says, or you can meet me at Igna's house in the morning and wait outside Tori's room to surprise her. We know Tori is there listening.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know this. So they're like, later in the book, they're like, I don't know how she's avoided me for so long.
Because you guys are fucking dumb. Think that nobody's going to spy on you just because you're like top dogs on campus.
Tori does not give a shit.
Mm-mm. At all.
Anyways, so it's also like a kind of a pissing contest between Caleb and Darius over Tori. Mm-hmm. It's kind of been happening this whole time, but every single time that she's brought up, it's just kind of like a back and forth. And so Caleb, after Darius says that, he says, yeah, I might just take you up on that, Caleb said, his own smile widening as he gave some thought to the idea of Roxy sleeping naked too. And the urge to punch him rose up in me again like an unfettered beast. Damn his pretty fucking face. If he got in her panties, I really was going to break it for him.
Then there's this other part where he goes, Caleb says, I had planned on topping up for my source at dinner, but the Vegas never showed. Darius goes, you could buy any idiot in the school. I said, rolling my eyes and trying to ignore the sting of irritation in my gut at the thought of him putting his mouth all over my fucking girl.
She's just a siren though, guys.
Just a siren.
That's all that's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that he goes and meets Lance.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we kind of get the inside of that conversation that Tori overheard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is also... Isn't this where we figure out? No. Anyway, so Darius gets there. And he says, what the fuck, Darius? You wouldn't talk to me all day. What did you expect? I'm the one who could get into serious shit for having you here. Oh, please. I'm out of your league. No one would believe I was here to suck your cock. How the hell am I supposed to explain what you did to the fence? And then Darius is like, okay, yeah, that was kind of shitty. But he says, I don't know. You'll figure it out. I told you not to come here. If someone were to see you. And then Darius says, I think you're forgetting who you're talking to, sir. And then they kind of get in. He's like, you know how much I care about this? I just don't want us to fuck it up when we're so close. So why are we waiting? And this is where Tori thinks that it's all about them trying to kill her.
Yep.
And then we know, I knew he wanted to meet with his fib informant. So now we know who the girl that he was at the bar with.
Mm-hmm.
We know who she is now.
Yeah.
We didn't in the first book. And then the one advantage we had over the nymphs who stole magic from the fae they killed was that they were untrained in how to use it. It was why academies like Zodiac were guarded closely, so that the knowledge of how to wield our power stayed locked away from the eyes of our enemies. It was bad enough that the nymphs could steal the power of the fae they killed. We couldn't risk them learning how to harness it and use it against us too. Interesting how Diego's a nymph and enrolled at Zodiac Academy. What?
Whoa! Crazy theory. Where did you get that idea?
So they're trying to learn us how to harness their powers, is what I think that Diego is doing there. And he's probably going back and teaching this coven of nymphs that have a nest right near the academy. And it's just funny how he disappeared with Sophia when the nymphs attacked Darcy and Tori. Weird. Another thing. I don't know when it talks about it. Don't laugh at me. Mm-mm. I don't know when it talks about it in here. But another thing with the reason why Zodiac is so highly protected is because younger people who have just had their magic awakening that don't know how to harness it or use it can very easily be attacked by a nymph because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They can't attack the nymph back. So it's a very easy target, especially for the Vega twins. Weird, who have all of that power that don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
They're very easy targets for nymphs. I don't know when it talks about that. I know it talks about it somewhere in here, but that was a huge piece. I was like,
so they
that,
all stay at an
that
academy
makes
to kind of
sense.
keep them safe,
That makes sense.
learn their powers. Interesting. I'm just going to eat my chocolate over here and not say anything.
And then we move into the next Orion chapter where he destroys Kylie's invites.
Yep.
So he's staring at Darcy. He's laughing because he knows that her and Kylie don't get along. And then he says, well, at least she had semi-decent taste in the company she kept. Though why she kept Polaris around, I'd never know. The way he looks at her. My gaze fixed on the hat-wearing shitbag and how his eyes kept flitting to Darcy, then to Tori beyond her. He looked sweaty, and sweaty people weren't my kind of people, especially sweaty people who looked too closely at girls they had no right to look at. What did he want anyway? A leg up in this world? Yeah, that was it. He was obviously a leech.
I've
seen enough of them come through this classroom in my time to know that leeches were one of the most dangerous friends you could keep. Weaker fae who couldn't make it on their own, but knew how to befriend the right people, offer out the right favors, then bam! They'd bend you over, fuck you in the ass, and take your glory. The accuracy of this statement, I was giggling. I was like, he's just like slightly off. Just slightly.
Just a little bit. But he's like,
but the rest of it,
so on point.
spot on.
Trust your gut, Lance.
If like the only thing that's wrong about this is he's not a weaker fae.
Interesting.
That's it. Anyway, we also move into how he also says, why did she unsettle me like that? She was just a girl, even if she was a Vega, and her mouthy sister didn't get me riled the way she did. No, it was something in the way she looked at me, like she could see beneath my hardened, steely exterior that kept most other fae out. Darius and Gabriel were among the very few fae who could get beneath it with ease, but with her, it didn't feel like that. It was like she was prying my ribcage open and wrapping her hand around my heart, one firm squeeze away from destroying me. Okay, dummies. Oops, hang on. And then this is when he wrote "You are not unique" on the board. And he's like trying to rile Darcy up, and he goes, they bind us in no order, no eyeliner or blue hair or beanie hat. I took a swipe at Diego's hat, but he grabbed hold of it like it was the fucking holy grail, glaring up at me in challenge. What's under his hat?
You'll see. You'll see what the hat's important.
Is the hat what keeps him in his fae form?
I'm not telling you anything.
On it?
I'm not telling you anything.
These are my theories. Let me theorize.
Okay.
Okay? Something with the hat. Something with the hat. It either is how he stays in his fae form. It is... Maybe it's like a glamour that he's got on, and the hat is like the thing for it. I don't know, but the hat has something to do with it.
Okay.
But Lance says, well, hello, little fae. Did you crawl out of your scaredy hole at last? Yeah, he crawled out of his nymph hole. And then he is making people do research, and he has Towery. He has Towery come over.
Towery
come over so that he can read her palm. And then after this, we know what she gets. And he says, wondering why her flesh didn't affect me the way her sisters did. Wonder why. Wonder why. It wasn't unheard of for twins to emerge as different orders, though it was quite rare. If Darcy was a siren, then I'd guess from the temperament of this girl that she was a dragon. Though she was so petite, it didn't seem likely. Of course, her father had been Hydra. And then Darcy answers his questions. She gets surprised because he gives points to her. And then he says, he focused on her power rankings, blah, blah, blah. I hadn't noticed before how much her magic had been calling to me within her veins, but now I feel the exact opposite of that within her twin. I was sure it was true, but what the fuck did that even mean? At least he's starting to, like, question a few of the things of why he's reacting that way to her. And then he bites Tori. He says, her blood washed over my tongue, a wave of magic crashing along with it, and that felt like the dark and enchanting power of the moon. She tasted good, really fucking good, and her power was just as immense as her sister's. But that was where the similarity ended, because feeding from Darcy had felt like drowning in everything she was and aching for more. It had tasted like her sweetness. Her fucking light had been flowing directly into me and begging me to bow to everything it was. Tori tasted like a dream, but not my dream, and that was something I wasn't sure I even understood. So we know that she is Caleb's source. Caleb comes in and says, she's my source, touch her again and you're dead. Lance didn't know that she was his source, and he didn't really want to fight with Caleb, so they agreed to make a deal that Tori was Caleb's, Darcy was Orion's. And he says, a breath left me that was tangled with relief because now I had her. And it was the best damn feeling I'd experienced in a long time. But I wasn't going to let the class see how much my mood had just brightened, so I straightened my shirt and turned to the board, a smile tearing across my face where they couldn't see it as I continued with the lesson in the flat tone. And then he says, I was fucked, so fucked, because I knew that this was more than her blood. Some deeper connection forged by something intangible.
But screw it, because I actually wanted something for the first time in too many years, and now that I had it, I wasn't letting it go. Darcy Vega was my source, mine, and no one else in the whole damn kingdom could have a taste of her but me.
And then he makes her see him after class. And he says, I berated myself internally for all the good that it did, but nothing could stop the buzz of adrenaline sweeping through me over soon having her alone. It was wrong, all of these thoughts were, this craving, but I couldn't seem to stop them. And now I'd branded her as my source. I had inadvertently made things even more difficult. But my nature was to protect her now, to keep her as mine, to ensure no other vampire stole her blood from me. And as good as it felt to know I had that claim, it was also going to make things far more complicated when it came to getting rid of her. What the hell are you playing at? I don't know, but I can't fucking stop. He agrees to meet up with Francesca. On Friday night. And then Darcy says, I don't want to be your source. And then he's like, once or twice a week, you're playing with fire blue and you won't like it when it burns. That's how that chapter ends. And then we moved into a Darius chapter. Darius. I go back and forth on how I pronounce names.
Always do.
Okay. So this is when this chapter makes me cry.
Yeah.
Like my heart definitely goes out to him here.
It gets so much worse. So much worse.
Anyway, so something that he mentions in the first part of this chapter, he and Lance both stardusted into close to the Acrix Manor, so he's going to see his dad because he was summoned after he got caught by the fib. And he says he's talking about his mom. And he says, Father liked to boast that she was the most beautiful woman in all the kingdom, like he was trying to take the reputation of the Savage King's wife and paste it onto his own in her absence. Weird. I hated the way Father claimed my mother's beauty as some kind of accolade of his own, not least because he was intent on marrying me off to a girl with a mustache and a favorite addiction, which meant her muscular bulk rivaled my own. That was such a weird thing to mention, how he's trying to, like, copy-paste Savage King. I was like,
Interesting.
The
fucking butler, I hate Jenkins. He's
he's a dick. He goes to see Xavier, and Xavier's super happy to see him, and it's really, really cute. Talking about his dragon emerging. He's not going to be a dragon. It's not going to happen. But Xavier says, I wish it would hurry up. I just want to go flying in the clouds and learn to do a bunch of tricks and flips. Is Xavier going to be a Pegasus?
We'll see.
Oh my fucking God. That just now occurred to me.
When I was like, what's a super low order that everybody's like, oh yeah, they don't have like any power. They're not powerful at all. That would just piss his dad off to no end.
Because I was like, this is foreshadowing that he's still going to be able to go flying. He's going to be a fucking Pegasus.
We'll see.
Allison. I just now reading that for the second time, I was like, okay. And then and you know what got me here? He goes, and the breathing fire. Yeah, sure, that too. But mostly I just want to be out there, spreading my wings and feeling free. He's going to be a fucking Pegasus. But he's going to have a lot of elements, isn't he?
I'm not saying anything. You'll see. It's book 3.
So I don't have too far. Okay.
Maybe book 3. It might be book 4. It's after The Reckoning.
The Reckoning is book 2.
No.
Or book 3.
3. So it might be book 4 when you
Anyway,
find out about Xavier.
I gave his shoulder a quick squeeze, then turned and left him there, following Lance from the room. But as I closed the door, I heard his murmured parting words, and they gave me the strength I needed to walk away with my head high and my resolve firmly in place. Thank you, Darius. I almost cried reading this. Like, he's literally doing all of this to protect his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And his dad uses his brother against him now because he knows he cares about him.
Mm-hmm.
And Xavier is like, let me come with you. Like, let me be there with you. And Darius is like, no, bitch. You're staying here. You're not getting hurt. If you were there, it would make it 10 times worse for me.
Yeah.
And that was just... Anyway, he goes to his dad. His dad does just...
The time for your excuses is past. Failure demands consequences.
You will work harder to achieve this goal in the future. You will make a concerted effort not to disappoint me again. I used to be so afraid of him when he got like this. Used to work tirelessly to do all I could to please him. But that was before I realized it was impossible to please him. I could achieve all he wanted, and he would punish me for being cocky about my accomplishments.
Mm-hmm. His dad says, kneel. And then he goes, Lance is trying to stop him, saying, Uncle Lionel, the Vega girls are ignorant and trained. And he goes, enough. He sends Lance crashing across the room. Darius looks to him in apology and then wordlessly drops to his knees in front of his dad. Lance starts cursing and trying to fight against the air that Lionel is holding against him.
And he puts a silencing bubble over him so he doesn't have to hear it. And then he takes his belt off. And it's like a dragon with like spikes on it.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts whipping Darius with it.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the guardian bond, Lance can feel all of it.
And it also hurts him because it's like a need to like protect him and like...
That Lionel did to him.
Yeah.
He made this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's hurting both boys. And this, like, it goes into detail of like how Darius is feeling during getting beat up.
Mm-hmm.
And then his father says, get up. And he couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
He says, on your feet, boy, or I'll bring your brother down here to join in on the lesson. And so that obviously gets Darius to get up. My vision darkened and a snarl of agony escaped my lips as I managed to grip the table beside me and haul myself to my feet. And his dad says, I see you still haven't gotten the message. So he forces him to not heal himself or let anyone heal him until dawn. Makes him make a star vow. And his guardian is struggling so hard. Because Lance wants to heal him so bad. Like, it's physically hurting Lance not to heal him.
Yeah.
So they get back to his room. And Darius says, I'm sorry. Dropping my gaze and hating that he was always dragged into this. That he'd been forced to be a part of it and his entire life had been stolen for it. Lance says, I hate when you say that. He snarled. And I nodded, but I always said it anyway because it was true. My heart. And then Lance got him drunk.
So, like, take away the pain?
To take away the pain and make him fall asleep. And then Darius wakes up to Lance healing him. And Lance heals it perfectly. And then Lance is like, used all of his magic. A, healing him. B, fighting off the air magic. Like,
yeah, Lionel.
And so he's like looking at Darius's neck. And he'd like make eye contact and then look back at his neck. And Darius lets him. And Lance is like, I should top up for my source. And he says, I'm the reason your power's running low. Besides, it's not even 6 a.m, so unless you plan on breaking into Gwen's bedroom and pouncing on her in bed, of course I don't want to do that. Well, if you aren't going to be creeping into any other students' beds tonight, then you should probably just... And then Lance, like, pounced on him. And then, so you get another glimpse into the bond right here. It says, it felt too good to please him like this. Much better than it did when I let Cal bite me. The bond wanted us to be close as possible, and as much as it drove him to protect me, it made me want to keep him strong and his magic replenished too. It made him biting me feel way better than it should have, and forced thoughts and feelings into my mind, which I had to work hard at remembering weren't my own. And then Lance says, I think I should go before I start dry humping you. And then Darius says, why couldn't you just be a girl? He says, oh, please. Even if I was a girl, I still wouldn't let you fuck me. And then they're talking about, like, Lance wants to, asks him how he is. Like, is he all right? And Darius knows that he's talking about the inside.
Yeah.
But Darius very much so is like, looks fine to me. They don't want to talk about it. And then Lance is like, you better not be late to my class. I'll still take points from you. And then Darius goes into thinking about how he hasn't seen Tori in a minute because she's been avoiding him. So he texts Seth first off, says, any sign of my Vega crashing into your house? He said,
my Vega.
Seth says, I've been balls deep in my beta for the last few hours, so can't be sure. Do you want me to go check or can I come first?
Fucking Seth.
Darius says, takes a picture of himself and sends it to Seth and says, thanks for making me want to puke up my coffee. Seth says, thanks for helping me finish. Knowing I was performing for an audience helped tip me over the edge. Breakfast in 10? I can check my house for Vegas on the way.
I fucking love him.
I
Seth.
hate him.
You haven't even finished this book yet.
I hate him.
You'll get there.
I don't give a shit.
You'll get there.
Will I? I don't know if I will.
For everybody else out there who has read the series, she'll get there. Everybody else knows.
I don't know if I'll get there. Anyway, his dad calls him, and he's in the middle of talking to his dad about getting rid of the Vegas when he walks into the post office, essentially, and guess who's there? Ding, ding, ding. Tori.
Trying to figure out how to get her packages out of the thing.
And so he gets off the phone. His dad hangs up with him. And Tori is essentially like, just be mean to me. Let's get it over with.
Yeah. Either take my shit or help me or whatever. Don't worry. Like, I'll order new stuff. And she just like.
And then he says, is this where you've been hiding then? And she's like, what do you mean hiding? He's like, I haven't seen you at the house or the orb since Tuesday. And she's like, I didn't realize you were so obsessed with me. And he like is kind of changing his tune a little bit right here. He's like, why the fuck am I listening to my dad? He's just a douchebag, blah, blah, blah. And he like is trying to kind of be nice to her. And she kind of makes a slight at him that we know about. And he like, that affects him in a way that she doesn't realize because his dad's a douche, and especially everything he just went through the night before.
There's a quote, and it says, a flicker of fear danced through her eyes for a moment, and I stilled, not wanting her to look at me that way for some reason, like I really was the monster that my father had made me.
And so it is. And he's like, you don't know anything about that? And she's like, you don't know anything about me? And he was going to leave her alone. And then we know that he turned back and helped her. And we get the, like, his feelings of when he saw the lingerie. And he goes, I caught her wrist before she could leave me hanging like that, tugging her back to face me again and feeling her pulse jump beneath my fingers. He said, all I could do was smirk at her because she might have been trying to pretend she didn't give a fuck about me, but I just felt the evidence against that for myself. So he let her keep her stuff. And as he's leaving, he feels good about ignoring his dad. And she says, pleasure seeing you as always, asshole. She called loudly, making sure I heard every word. And for some strange reason, her calling me an asshole was the highlight of my damn week. So this whole thing was, after everything that happened with his dad, he was looking for her. He wanted her to make him feel better. He wanted to know what was going on with her. He wanted to know about her day. And he's just like, I want to hear her call me asshole. And look at that. She did. Word. And then we move into a Caleb chapter. This is the chapter where they are in class and they went down into the mines with Tori. And I really like that they gave us Caleb's perspective on this because he wants her to be his. And he talks about it a lot in here because he wants to hear her say, I am yours. And doing that, like, gives him, like, a power boost. So they lifted her up. They took her down deeper into the mines. And he's having fun with her. And she goes, you're stupidly strong. He goes, you like that, do you, sweetheart? And they were picking on her. And he's like, that's not even my best attribute. That would involve us stitching our clothes. And he got so excited about the fact that she might be into it. And this is when they, like, hold her over the edge. And because I know that something is coming with Seth and Caleb, I am, like, highlighting the stuff that's leading to it.
Wait, what do you mean?
Her sneakers scrambled against the edge of the drop-off, and fear flared in her dark eyes, which made a pulse race, and a laugh fell from my lips as we held her suspended like that at our mercy. Seth and I always made the perfect deadly team. Quite a team. And then Caleb, we know that he's a little bit more, what's the word I want? Not reserved, a little more sympathetic.
Yeah.
With the Vega twins. And he said, I was surprised at how honestly and easily she tossed those words our way, but it just made it all the clearer how little she understood our world. So essentially she was like, I don't want the throne. Take it away. We just want our inheritance. We just want, like, to live happily. And she's, like, giving them a little bit of a backstory of her life. And he goes, I glanced at Seth, not liking the way her words struck a chord with me and wondering if he was feeling the same as me. But one look at the wild excitement in his eyes said that wasn't the case. He was still fully on the get rid of the princesses train, and with the clarity of our parents' wishes on the matter, I couldn't exactly question it, especially not with her here. I hate him. I hate Seth.
You have not seen.
I don't care. Have compassion, motherfucker.
He's just doing what his parents have told him to do.
Okay.
There's consequences when he doesn't.
Yeah, I know. I saw a little bit of that. They talk about it a little bit. Anyway, Tori ends up using coercion on them. And Caleb was kind of like, told you so. Told you they were strong. Blah, blah, blah.
Then he bites her.
And then he bites her. And Caleb kind of goes through his thought process when Seth touches her. So Seth knows what he's doing. He knows that he shouldn't be touching her.
100% knows.
And then they just leave Tori. And then we go to an Orion chapter. And I think this is the start of Friday.
I don't know. Yeah, on class Friday afternoon. I shot back to Asteroid Place last class on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, so this is the night where he needs to go meet up with Francesca. And so he runs into Astrom again. And Astrom says,
Your aura's dark today. Sorry, I'm not exuding sunshine and rainbows like my usual self.
And then he says, when I taught you at this academy, you had so much potential. And Lance thinks it's something about Pitball, but he says it's nothing about that. You know nothing about anything. Enlighten me then. And then he's like, Lance is talking about how he's super jittery. And he says, I've seen things. Something is coming. I momentarily become distracted from my anger as I took in these words because I'd been feeling that way for a while now, and every reading I did confirmed it. Plus, I may have hated the old guy, but he worked as a consultant to the Vega Queen years ago, and I knew his sight was powerful. What have you seen? The dice is already rolling, and I fear it's too late. Too late for what? And then Washer comes in, and Astrom runs. I'm curious. I think Washer is also, like, something's going on there. He has something to do with the bad shit. I think that's why he's fucking the principal. like there's something there. I don't know what. I don't really have any theories on it yet. I just think that he is suspicious.
Suspicious for just being a pervert.
He's not just a pervert. He just is conveniently in all of these places at all of the right times. You know? And he's a pervert. Anyway, he starts talking about Franny and how he's like, he's kind of hitting on her and being really gross about it.
Yeah.
And then I grimaced, about to snap at him, when a harpy landed right between us, their black wings folding behind them and slapping Washer in the face.
The amount of times that Gabe slaps people in the face with his wings is so funny.
I saw this. I knew who it was before literally the next word. I was like, she lied. Because Allison told me we weren't going to meet him until the third book.
I forgot about this part. I thought it was all over text messages. I forgot that he actually showed up.
My babe is here. Noxie! I beamed in surprise, finding my friend Gabriel grinning at me with a takeaway bag in his hand. Hey, Oreo. So essentially Gabe is there to like
hang out, bring dinner,
see
how he's doing.
Talk to him and see how he was. And he says, you look dead on your feet. He says, I'm dead off them too. How are the Vegas? Powerful. Tell me about them. One has blue hair, right? I wonder why he's questioning about
one has blue hair, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I said sharply, the words coming out defensive, and I cursed myself internally. I didn't want Gabriel noticing anything about my behavior. He already fucking knows. Like, he knows.
Right. His great eyes glazed over for a second, and he fell into a vision. And when he refocused, he glanced at the back of the couch like he had seen something there, and surprise crossed his features. Blue means you. Holy shit. That quote will resurface. That whole scene will resurface in like end of book 2, early book 3. Whenever that quote comes back, that scene will come into play.
Gabriel scratched at a tattoo of 3 intertwined wings on his collarbone. Who are these for?
He does have both their star signs and something else has to do with them, their orders, tattooed on him. And it comes up all the time in Ruthless Boys because he says that like he gets them after he sees after something happens or if he sees the future. And then Elise points out one of them and he's like, I don't know, I haven't met them yet.
But I read that and I was like, why is there 3?
Interesting. Could the twins have wings?
And then he's like, what? Nothing. Look, I came to talk to you about something in particular. I've been getting some strange visions lately. It's like there's walls stopping me from seeing something. Like a dark cloud barring my way. I try to push through it, but it's impossible. I'm not sure what it is, but I think it's bad, Oreo. And it fucking scares me because if I can't see the danger, then I can't protect my family from it. I can't protect you from it.
I forgot. Oh, no.
What?
I forgot it started this early. I was like, continue. Oh, shit.
And then he says, have you been acting on what I told you the other day? You need to follow the light, Lance. It's important, more important than I can really say. He's like, I don't know what that means. What light? There is no light. This world is fucking gray sometimes. And then he picks up the bourbon. Well, he starts thinking about Clara. And then Gabe says, the past is gone. There are no more paths for you there. I know. He says, so take a new path. You can be happy. I know you can. And then Lance asks if he's seen it, and Gabe says yes. He nodded, a promise in his eyes. But I didn't have his gifts. I couldn't perceive what he'd seen, so I was just a gambler, blindly placing bets, and I didn't know where to put my money. The answer is the path of least resistance. Well, it must be at the bottom of the bottle of bourbon then. And then this is where it says, but we weren't normal friends. We were Nebula allies, which meant I was star chosen for him and him for me. No escaping that, sadly for him.
They talk about Gabriel's family.
And I basked in the happiness of his life, trying to steal some of it for my own as I forgot about my problems. And then he's like, he was like, oh shit, supposed to be there. Gabriel knows already, right? Because he saw the text coming through.
He goes, see you later. Have an interesting evening.
And he meets Francesca. And this was actually really interesting to me because he literally has been talking about the whole time how Francesca knew he didn't want a relationship. She didn't want one either. And she leaned back, threading her fingers between mine and scoring her thumb across my lips after she had kissed him publicly. And she says, why do you look like I just punched you in the dick? He's like, I just didn't realize we were kissing in public now. And she says, is that a problem? He's like, no, not technically. So maybe I was just overthinking this. The thing was, it wasn't her kissing me that was really the problem. It was that the second her mouth had touched mine, I'd thought of someone else. And I'd felt the weirdest fucking sense of betraying her. Anyway, they're talking and she is like asking him about his week, and she laughed, swatting my arm, and I frowned. She wasn't usually like this. Normally we chatted about pitball scores and nymph attacks, not small talk bullshit. We ordered drinks, and my attempt to steer the conversation to pitball somehow kept ending up back at weird topics. She's like asking about his mom and talking about love. And he says, love's a word I reserve for few and far between these days. Like for me? She asked playfully. Yeah. Lance snorted. You, Darius, Gabriel, my Nebula allies.
He's like, we're just friends. It's my Nebula allies. That's who I love.
That's about it. Her lips turned down, and then he says, did you see the last Skylarks game? I swear, Altair is made for scoring pits. She's like a rocket on the field, especially when the lion starts knocking everyone over. I wonder who he's talking about. That's Elise and Leon. They're on the Skylarks, the professional pitball team.
Yeah, together.
It's just like
Elise and Leon playing pitball together is the cutest thing I could ever think of. Professionally.
Poor Lance.
It's so cute.
Lance should have been there with them.
He gets a message from Gabriel. And it says, my atlas buzzed and I took it from my pocket, finding a photo from Gabriel of a snake with a top hat on and a tiny rose between its teeth.
No, we know who that is too. And then I frowned, waiting for an explanation. Because she
said, can I talk
wanted to talk to him about something. He asked if it was the nymphs. She said, no, it's about us. And then he said, he frowned, waiting for an explanation. But as she went on, a flash of blue in my periphery made my eyes whip over her shoulder to the door as it opened. Darcy Vega walked into the bar with her sister and a couple of freshmen. My breath stalled in my lungs. Blue looked fucking radiant in tight-fitting jeans and a black cami that dipped low enough to show off her cleavage in a lacy bra that had my cock's full attention. Oh, fuck no. Why is she here? Of all the fucking places she chose to come here. And then you hear Francesca kind of come back. And she's like, and I feel like there is something special between us. Don't you? Francesca was saying, and I grunted some sort of affirmation, not really taking in what she'd said, as I stared at the girl who seemed to carry the sun with her wherever she went. It felt so much warmer in here now. So much brighter. I was going to turn to ash in that light. Like vampires from the Mortal stories.
And when Francesca's like, you do feel that way? And he's like, and he's like vaguely responding to her. So now she thinks, oh, there's something between us. Dumb. Way to go, Lance.
And then Darcy orders a whiskey and Coke. And he says, when she ordered a whiskey and Coke, I swear my dick did some sort of salute. Whiskey girl, damn it. Why are you doing this to me? And then he actually ended up switching her drink for a better alcohol, which I think is so funny. And Francesca's like, should we try? He says, yeah, figuring it was 50-50 odds on whatever I was agreeing to being the right choice. She says, are you sure?
Fucking
well,
Lance.
He's literally just switching Darcy's drink. He's just like sideways responding to her, not even really listening to what she's saying. And then they say, did you get any information on the nest? Francesca says, yes, I'm almost certain it's nymphs. She had asked her captain to look into it. The captain responded later and said no. And then she starts talking about this trip
Mm-hmm.
in their senior year. And she's like talking about how they kissed and how it was super romantic. And Lance is like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
Poor Francesca.
But he even says, still had zero memory though, which was weird considering I didn't drink back then. Were they like setting something up here of like that scene? Is she bad?
I'm not telling you anything.
She's bad. Okay, there we go. I figured something was going on there because she's like, one, why does she automatically change? Like, that's super weird. Why is she acting super weird now? Two, this whole scene right here made me feel weird.
I think she just is like grasping at straws to be with Lance.
I don't know. It was just fucking weird. And then Washer comes in with Astrom, starts hitting on her. And then he's like, Diego nudges her and he goes, did she ask you to touch her fuck face?
Mm-hmm.
And then Lance informs Francesca
Mm-hmm.
that he has taken on a new source.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that she was his source.
Mm-hmm.
And she got like
Super offended.
really upset.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, she's like, who is it? Who is it? And he says Darcy Vega. And she kind of like thinks it's a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, I thought you liked biting me. He said, I did. Did? So my blood's not good enough for you anymore? And then he's like essentially saying the Vegas are the most powerful fae in the kingdom. How was I supposed to pass up on that opportunity? And then he says, if you enjoy being bitten, you could always find another vampire to claim you as a source. She says, I don't want another vampire, Lance. I thought you... Da-da-da-da-da.
That's such a like stab at her. When because vampires want to claim sources, they can have multiple sources. And the fact that he was like, I don't want you, somebody else can have you. Like, somebody else can claim me. That's fine. That's such just like a fucking like, fuck you. I don't care about you. And she's
What a
like,
slight.
what?
Yeah. And then Lance says, I had to have her. You don't understand what it's like to crave another fae's power. It's how I'm made, and she's fucking made to tempt me. I mean, her power is made to tempt me. And then shots, Diego announces, rising from his seat. This is when he started to go get shots.
Mm-hmm.
And then Geraldine comes over and she says, well, bless my cream crackers. I thought you were staying at the Orb. I think I have that highlighted in the other book, but I wanted to highlight again to make sure. And then Francesca still keeps trying to get Lance's attention. As soon as Geraldine leaves, he's like, I need to focus on Francesca.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed Diego by the bar, gathering up 4 bright green shots and spending a lot of time jiggling them between his hands as he arranged them in his grip. He was literally an air elemental and could have used his magic to assist him easily, so this display was painful to watch.
Interesting.
Anyway, he focuses on Francesca. They talk about the nymphs, how they want to go after them.
This is what Darcy has started over here.
Yeah, this is when Darcy's sitting next to them. He notices her, pulls her into the bathroom, and he says, this is what happens when you go looking for trouble, Blue. It finds you. And then he says, well, fuck me, after Darcy's like, you're trying to kill me and my sister. Well, fuck me, that was quite the accusation. She's just like, she's hating him. And he tells her to go home. And then he walks out to Francesca, pays, and they leave. I didn't look at Darcy again. I was going to 3 Wise Monkeys the fuck out of this problem because I was officially going to see no blue, hear no blue, speak no star damned blue. And then we move into a Darius chapter. So Lance texted him, let him know the Vegas were in town. So he's like waiting. He's staring and waiting and like not listening to his friends and just trying to see where they're going to come from. He was super tempted to ask Lance where they were. But he's like, that would be too suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
And then this is when they come out of the alleyway. And Max goes over to get them. And then he says, the upturn of my mood took a hit at his words. Oh, shit. He says, my night had just taken a decided turn for the better. So I smiled into my drink as I took another mouthful and waited for my girl to come see me. Hell yes, this is going to be all of the right kinds of fun, Caleb said as he leaned back in his chair. I've been looking forward to seeing what Tori looks like when she cuts loose. The upturn of my mood seemed to take a hit at his words, as I realized I wasn't the only one of us looking forward to spending more time with my Vega, but I wasn't going to be letting him steal her from me without a fight. Mine. And then they start going in on each other. And then Seth is talking about Darcy. He says, I can go monogamous, one night at a time anyway, for the right fae. Little shithead. The day you go monogamous will be the day I start sucking cock.
I'm going to highlight that right there. So funny.
And then Max brings them over, and they're trying to tell them about the nymph, and Darius is like, oh no, like I need to stay close to them. So he texts Lance and is like, hey, they think the Vegas just showed up here looking terrified and saying something was chasing them. They said they heard a rattle. Lance said, stay with them, keep them safe, and I'll scout the area. So that is when Darius is like, yes, sir. I will stay with them all night. And then they promise them one drink, and then the girls leave, and then they go to the dancing. And this is like, I was waiting to read this chapter because I was really excited to see what Darius was thinking throughout all of this. And then, so when Seth sent Max and Caleb to get the girls, Darius was like pissed. But Seth said to him, he's like, you look like you're about ready to start a bar fight. Like, essentially, calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
And then he was like imagining what Cal was saying to the girls, and he was like, he's probably being all, do you like my dimples? And hopefully she was responding like, no, they look like two buttholes on either side of your face. So he's like making up conversations in his head where she's being mean to Caleb. And then he goes, Roxy isn't into him biting her yet, Seth said, rolling his eyes at me. I think about it. He's grabbing her all the time, his mouth on her neck, pinning her up against things. It's only a matter of time before he's slipping more than his teeth into her. A growl escaped me and I shoved my feet. This is when he went to go look for them, and he saw her dancing on the dance floor. And this is when he went up and grabbed her. And then, like, he just talks a lot about how he's super attracted to her, wants to kiss her, wants to let out that tension. And he said it was hotter than any sex I could ever remember having, and neither of us had removed so much as a single item of clothing. And he's like going through all of that, and then Caleb comes over. He says, because all there was in that moment was her and me in the press of the heavens above us, driving us together like we might burn up in the fire which blazed between us if we didn't just dive into it now. It didn't even feel like a choice at all, more like an urgent need which demanded to be answered. And then,
Caleb.
Thanks. And then there was a question hanging between me and her, a want which we both felt and ached to satisfy. There's a whole chasm full of reasons for us to deny that. Not that I gave a shit, because every fiber of my being was screaming for me to claim her and make her mine with an urgency that made my head spin. Orion's looking for you. So as she walked
Caleb.
over, he says, I guess I better see what he wants, knowing that the moment I stepped away from here would be the moment this opportunity left us. I cast a final look. A growl rumbled through my chest, and Caleb grinned widely, slapping me on the shoulder as I passed him and making me want to punch his fucking face all over again. No doubt Lance's appearance had made his fucking night, and it had definitely ruined mine. And then we move into Orion.
Is this the last chapter that we're going to?
This is the last chapter we're going to go over. So this is Orion's POV of walking into the dance hall. Dancing, whatever,
and seeing Darcy
Seth
with Seth.
And seeing Darcy with Seth all over her. And he was listening to them.
Seth says, fuck being enemies. I want to be your friend tonight.
He says, it was taking every ounce of willpower I had to remain standing there in favor of destroying the man touching Darcy Vega.
What kind of friends act like this? The best of friends.
Oh. It was difficult to focus on the words that passed between us, but I managed to catch a couple of sentences. Seth purred in her ear, his fingers twisting into the blue ends of her hair and making me spit a snarl. Darcy laughed, clearly drunk, as her fingers slid down his arm while his other hand dropped onto her ass, drawing her even closer. No. All rational thought was exiting my mind until I was nothing but an animal about to attack. I knew in that second I was going to do it. I was going to shoot over there, tear Seth Capella off of her, and make him bleed for touching her like that. She's my source.
Nice save there, Lance. Nice save.
I gritted my teeth, crushing them to dust. As I forced my feet to move towards the exit, refusing to let myself look back, Darius walked stiffly at my side, seeming as pissed off as I did to be leaving, and judging by how he'd been grinding himself against Tori, I had to wonder if she was the reason. I glanced at my friend and caught him looking back. What? He snapped. Nothing. I'm just in the mood to kill something.
Same.
We made it outside, and Francesca nodded at me. I uncurled my still clenched right hand, my knuckles white as I flexed them and brought magic to my fingertips. Is she gonna go home with him? Is she gonna fuck him? She can't. He's a fucking heir. The worst fucking heir. The urge to go back was rising in me, and I had to force my legs to keep moving. My heart thumped a painful tune in my chest, continuing his plea with me to go back, to stop her from making the most stupid decision of her life. She was too good for that wolf asshole, too sweet. He didn't deserve to get his hands on her flesh. I pictured her pinned beneath him and stopped dead in the street. And then Francesca says she spotted it. It had gone that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then he realizes that Geraldine was attacked.
Yep.
He ends up destroying the nymph, and he starts trying to heal her. And then he tells Darius to get out of there. Darius, get out of here. No fucking buts, because Darius is like, no, I can't. He says, you can't be found at the scene of another attack. Even your father can't save you from this. If the Fib find you again, Francesca, get him out of here. Stay with me, Bruce. Babbling Brooks, don't kill me, you Fantagoon. She mumbled before passing out again. He calls in emergency services. Goldfish in a gander bush, she mumbled, pawing at my chest. What muscular beast has me in its grasp? Where are my queens? Are they safe? Tell me my dear queens are safe from harm, and I shall go into the star's embrace without fear. She looked delirious, staring up at the sky like she really was about to die. What happened? A nymph. And then she says, oh, sweet mother, I am coming to you, my darling dote of a damn selfie. How I've missed you.
Mm-hmm.
And then she passed out because she got injected with something.
Mm-hmm.
A paramedic says you saved her life. He says I was only just powerful enough. And then he sees Darcy.
Yep.
He says, I've lost all sense of everything as I fell into the needs of my order and the desire to devour this girl's magic. I wanted every last drop. I needed more of her. Everything. He was talking about how he was about to get a hard-on in the middle of everybody, but how she tasted so good. It was more than that. I had her in my arms again. I didn't want to let go. She was the summer sun after the longest winter of my life, and all I wanted to do was bask in her glow. So bask in it. Bask
Stop
away.
fighting it.
The path of least resistance.
Stay in the sunshine.
And then it kind of talks about, like, we know that Tori pulled him off of her. Caleb defended her with him. And he really wanted them to go with him.
Yep.
Because he knew that he needed to get Darcy some blood and heal her. And he's like, he wants to apologize, but can't find the right words, which we know from the first book that Darcy was kind of pissed about that.
Yeah.
And then they get on the bus. And you drank way too much. You have to get a grip. How are you going to keep feeding from her if you act like a monster every time your teeth are in her? He says, I've never had this problem before. And then Caleb led Tori and Darcy past the queue straight onto the bus, and my hackles rose as they joined Max and Seth. As Seth pulled Darcy close to him and nuzzled against her cheek, that feral animal in me awoke once more. And then he gets called down to the Fib for questioning.
Yep.
And that is where we ended for this episode. I was waiting.
Any new theories?
I think Francesca's bad.
Okay.
I think Washer's bad.
Don't like bad.
Diego,
Don't like bad.
Diego, I have more theories on than the
Mhm.
other ones. Like Washer, I don't quite know how he fits in, but he always seems to be there.
Okay.
Have you seen New Girl?
Mhm.
Have you seen the episode where she's at the wedding and trying to get the best date? And they play that game of just always be there.
I
I
have
feel
not.
like that's what Washer's
But that
doing.
sounds like Washer, yeah. Just always be there. He's just always
Lance, you want to fuck me in the pool
sliding
today?
into conversations.
So maybe he's not like bad, but he's like morally gray.
Interesting.
Francesca, I think she is not bad right now. I think she's going to turn bad because Orion turned her down. She's going to
Interesting.
stop helping him because he's going to start falling in love with Darcy.
Interesting. There's so much that happens, and I cannot wait for you to get to some of the parts.
In this book? Or
No,
like the rest of the
the
series?
rest of the series.
I'm hoping soon. Like, it seems like at least Darius and Orion are coming around to the girls. Like, Darius is like, fuck my dad. So I'm excited to read the end of this book to see how he's feeling during that scene. To kind of see how I feel about him then. Caleb's probably top of my 4 boys still.
I would agree. When I read this, Caleb was my top.
I feel like Orion tops everybody, and then Caleb. Caleb, Darius, Max, Seth, because fuck Seth. I'll probably not like... Oh, no, I'll probably start to like Max a little bit more when I hear about when he takes the girls' fears. But I don't... They give me the creepers. Every time I see Seth's name, I like... Ugh.
Why?
Because he makes me so angry.
How is what he did any worse than what any of them did? Max is the one that told her to go up the thing.
I know.
All he did was cut Darcy's hair.
He didn't just cut Darcy's hair. He involved romantic feelings.
Who's to say that he didn't have romantic feelings
I'm
for
not
her?
saying he didn't. But how can you do that to someone that you've just...
How can Caleb idly sit by and watch Tori, who
That I
he
don't understand.
had
100%.
actual relations with,
100%.
and not say anything, and his source? And he's at
Caleb
the top.
tried.
And he's at the top of your list.
Caleb tried. He tried to get her not to go out there.
Not hard enough.
Yeah, because the guys came.
In the classroom, he could have said, "Hey, don't go to the dance,"
He tried.
but not hard enough.
How can he all out refuse his brothers?
Well, he can't, because it comes up several times in the series where they vote on things, and it's the majority rule.
Yep.
Just like the counselors normally rule like that.
Exactly. That's why Caleb is my number 2, technically, I guess. If you count all of them. Orion is my number
I
1.
just don't understand how Seth can be the worst when all he did was
I
cut
fucking
hair.
hate Seth.
When all
Because
he did
you
was
have
cut-
preconceived notions on him, and I don't right now.
I just think it's funny because when I was reading the book, I also absolutely hated Seth. And then further in the series, I'm like, I love him. He's my favorite.
Ew.
Favorite.
Nope.
Well, they're all like pretty much tied.
Lance,
Love all of
Caleb,
them.
Darius, Max, Seth.
Max. You'll see.
Blech. I hate Seth. I fucking hate him. Like, ugh. I was about to say the same exact thing I just said 2 seconds ago because it's true. I literally cannot stand that man right now. But next episode,
Finishing the
we're
book.
finishing As Told by the Boys. It's going to be part 3. And I'm really ready to get to the...
I'm so excited for you to
We'll see.
read. I'm so excited for you to read book 2. Because right now we kind of we know what happens, and it's nice to see the other perspective. But then when we get into book 2 and it's all new, and it's the girls having just come off that super traumatic event, so good.
I'm ready to
So
see
good.
them start to come into their power. I'm ready. They're already starting. I really want to see them get their orders too. I know it's going to be a minute, but
Yeah.
I'm ready to see Gabriel. I'm ready for them to realize that they're related. Because it's funny because he noted that too. When Gabriel landed, he's like, his dark hair.
Mm-hmm.
Who else has dark hair that we know?
Oh, I mean, a lot of people, but
Shh.
dark-haired
has dark hair that
harpy
they know?
seer. Dark-haired harpy seer. Also involved with Falling Star. Interesting. The consult. One
He's
of the
got 3
of
wings
the queen.
tattooed.
The consult of the queen, who was a seer. She was a seer. The strongest seer in existence. And then there's this harpy with dark hair.
Is Falling
Is
Star
a seer.
sad?
No. You'll see. It does come up. You find out the whole story.
Okay. I like your nails. They're beautiful.
Thanks.
Anyway, we're going to finish the book this next one.
Mm-hmm.
Then the one after that, we're starting book 2. I am ready. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm still reeling a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I had a few, like, he's
Oh,
going to be a
shit.
Pegasus.
Moments. Yep.
Xavier's going to be a Pegasus.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited. Let us know how you guys felt about this one. I know it's like the middle of the book, but
There's so many things that are going to happen soon. And I'm like, I can't say anything. You're going to read it and you're going to be like, what the fuck, Allison? And I'm going to be like, you didn't want me to spoil it for you.
no, you better not. I'm doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any spoilers for the rest of the series. Okay.
There's like 3 huge spoilers that are always like, they're always spoiled for people. Always.
Nope.
Thank God.
I don't
We'll
know
get
anything.
live reactions.
Oh, I know one spoiler.
Geraldine.
Shh.
Okay.
They don't know the spoilers.
I didn't say anything about her. That's why I just said Geraldine.
Yes, that one I do know. It was a guess because of something, and you confirmed it.
We'll see.
Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. We will see you next time for the end of the book
Mm-hmm.
on our next Zodiac Sunday. And yeah, thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
When you look my way, it gave me shivers.